What's up, peeps? Archie here. And if I'm here and you're here, that means we're both here to learn. We've done so many little lectures, and it's like I've basically taught an entire class on this already. But you know what? You know what I say? There's always learning to be done. So with the magical glasses that have now floated up onto my head, we can begin the lesson. Today, we are here to discuss the wonders of reading comprehension. It's a very, very important quality, an important skill to have, not only as readers, but as writers as well. Here, we begin with a very familiar question. Maybe you've heard a different version of this, but the one that I know, the one that usually goes around, is why are the curtains blue? A lot of people online try to discuss this, and it's usually framed in a way of ugh, English teachers always ask these lame questions like, why are the curtains blue? I don't know, probably because the writer just wanted to make them blue. No. As a writer myself, I am here to tell you right now, that is not how it goes. There is a very specific reason why writers put in the details they do. And oftentimes it ties into the building of a character or the building of not only a setting, but a general idea. It's a motif. There are tons of reasons why the curtains can be blue. And I think the reason that a lot of people don't necessarily read into it too much is because they don't develop a good sense of reading comprehension. So, first off, we should go over the essential question of the night. How do I read? Reading is more than just understanding words on a page. It's also understanding what makes those words significant. On the most basic level, reading comprehension is the ability to understand the meaning of a given text. But if we go deeper, it's about understanding the context or the intent and how to best utilize that knowledge. So, the why do you read? That is another important question. For readers, you read to understand something, obviously. Whether it be for education or entertainment, the reason that you read is because you want to parse something from the words on the page. For writers, the reason that writers read is because getting better at reading gives you a fuller appreciation or understanding of how language works and how it can be utilized effectively in one's own writing. In short, good readers make good writers. If people know what makes a book a good book, if they can read into the details, if they could really hone in on everything that's going on, not only mechanically, but also thematically and linguistically, if you take all of that into account and you're yeah, that's a good book, you can learn from that and you can build off of that experience with your own works as well. Here is a list of all the 5 levels of reading comprehensions. You could also technically have it broken down into just 3, literal, inferential, and evaluative, but I feel like the 5 levels go a little more in depth with it and make it a little clearer. Now we're going to start with the most basic, being lexical. Lexical comprehension is the most basic form of reading comprehension. It's understanding what words are being used and what they mean. So why this is important for readers? It gives you an opportunity to learn new vocabulary. That's the cool thing about reading books, is that you get to learn new words from people. And for writers, it's an opportunity to learn new vocabulary that you can then use in your own works. Ain't that nifty schwifty? I've heard some writers who try to be I don't read too much because I don't want to steal from other writers. I want to make my own original works, which is very, very fair. But at the same time, you're limiting yourself. If you don't broaden your horizons in any way, you're going to be very limited in the words that you say, in the themes that you pursue, and you don't get to see all the interesting ideas that are out there in the world. It's very important to read books, not only to learn new words and new ways to explore your themes, but just to get a sense of what else is out there. We're going on to the next one. This is literal comprehension. So literal comprehension is the understanding of basic elements in a story / text, often answering the questions of who, what, when, and where. So if you can follow the basic plot of a story, then that is a good indicator that you understand literal comprehension. And that's what's important for readers of a story. It's important to follow what's going on. Now for readers, the reason why literal comprehension is important for readers is because it's important to know how to make your writing easy to follow. Like if you have a book and it's just all jumbled together and you don't really know what's going on or who's saying what, then it can be very difficult to engage with your audience. People are going to put down the book and not come back to it because, like, why would they try to decipher this thing? Next up, we've got interpretive comprehension. We're starting to get into the bigger brain stuff, is using the text to understand facts that aren't explicitly stated. It typically answers the questions why, how, what if, things like that. If you're following a story, let's say, I guess my favorite book, Fahrenheit 451, we'll go with that. There is a character by the name of Guy Montag. He's the protagonist, and he is a fireman. And when we hear the word fireman, we think, oh, he fights fires. No. He starts fires, and he burns down houses that have books in it. And that's just the basic premise. Okay, we've got the plot, we've got the who, we've got the what. Now, why does he do it? He does it because it's his job. However, he also has a secret stash of books himself. And we find this out within like the first few chapters, so it's not that much of a spoiler. But like, okay, if he is a fireman, if he's burning other people's books, why does he have his own? Or like, how did he get them? Things like that. And these are questions that are technically answered within the text itself, but it's sort of like that initial engagement of thought of like, oh, there's this thing that contradicts what we're seeing happen on the page. Like, he is a guy who destroys books, but he also has books that he's secretly keeping himself. Why is that? And again, it engages the reader. It gets them deeper into the themes, the plot, the understanding. For readers, it helps them to develop a broader understanding of the story, as well as a basis for more critical thinking. They can try to put themselves into Guy Montag's shoes and be like, well, maybe if I worked that job too, maybe I'd want to try to like preserve the history of literature a little bit, something like that. And that's definitely one of the themes of Fahrenheit 451. Now, for writers, the reason why interpretive comprehension is important for writers is because it's a useful way to give just enough info for your readers to kind of follow along. Like I said, it's supposed to engage them, and it leaves them like a little breadcrumb trail to follow. It makes them feel smart for understanding the context clues and figuring it out, so to speak. Everyone loves that adrenaline rush high of being like, yeah, I called it. I knew this person was the murderer or something like that. It is so vital to elicit that emotion. So reading other people's books and figuring out how they do it, how they handle it, it's very, very good. Next, we move on to applied comprehension. Applied comprehension is relating the story to the real world through opinion, comparison, etc. Now, for readers, this means that you bring the lessons learned in the text into focus and give yourself an opportunity to learn from them. Why is applied comprehension important for writers? It's important because it gives more purpose to your writing. If you see a good book and you're like, wow, these themes are really, really important, I want to write about them too, like, you can emulate that and give yourself more purpose to what you're writing. And it can even impact your work's target audience, whether they agree or disagree with you, or find your story relatable or realistic, or things like that. A lot of people tend to look at books very critically and be like, ugh, this character isn't realistic, or I don't understand why this plot twist happened, especially when it comes to things like twist Disney villains. That's a really hot topic right now. and how like people just don't find it because it's out of nowhere and it doesn't feel like it fits the story, things like that. Writers can clue into that and make sure to avoid those pitfalls, or try to come up with a better way around the issue to where it's more realistic, or the characters are more relatable, things like that. But yes, applied comprehension, very good skill to have, but there's one step above it. One step above, which is affective comprehension. This is where it all goes down. Affective comprehension is the full understanding of your written work, demonstrated by the ability to follow plot/character development and the social/emotional aspects that go with it. Basically, you've taken this breadcrumb trail, you've followed it to the end, and you have seen all the clues and how they all tie together and whatnot, and you can understand every aspect of the plot, of the story, of the characters within it. So for readers, the reason why affective comprehension is important is because it gives you the means to critically analyze a work from multiple angles. Basically, if you want to go into any sort of like critical analysis of a piece, if you want to get a fuller appreciation of like, oh, this theme ties into this plot line really well because XYZ. If you want to have those sorts of discussions, that's where affective comprehension comes into play. And for writers, it gives you the means to share your ideas with a broad audience. If you understand how to elicit affective comprehension, then you will have succeeded as a writer. Like, if you can get people talking about your works and understanding your own viewpoints with it, and not even just that, but also having them discover their own interpretations of the work. If they can do that, then you're just set. That is what makes really good literature. Now, a little bit of a side note here. There was a class that I took in college called Critical Analysis, and it was basically developing these skills right here. More effective ways of reading a text, understanding it, interpreting it, things like that. It was after taking this class and taking a few more English classes after that I started to wonder, what even is the point of it all? Like, it felt very self-serving, if that makes sense. It felt like we weren't understanding literature for any other reason than to just understand literature and be like, oh yeah, this book is good because this book is good. It's like, oh man, so cool that there's a good book out there. So the reason why books are good, and the reason why there's so many different works that we have like exhausted interpretations for over the ages. Like, there is stuff from Shakespeare that we are still learning in high school English courses today. And the reason that is because not only are the works important for the time period, but there's so much that goes into it that can be dissected and delved into for its readers. And the more people who read it, the more likely it is that you're going to have people who see things from a different angle. And it can make us appreciate that work even more for what it does to our culture. It's the social aspect that goes along with it. Shout out to Shakespeare for making a ton of words we use today, like downstairs. Yeah, and it is honestly baffling just the amount of words that there are that are attributed to Shakespeare and became more commonplace. Honestly, if there's any achievement that would make me feel like my life was worth it, it would be creating a word for the English language. Like, if I were to make a word that people use for ages after my passing, like, dang. Now, the problem is, I don't exactly know how to go about that. Like, you can't just mash letters together and be like, oh yeah, snumpty. Yeah, I'm gonna start using the word snumpty and just see if it sticks. Like, no, you gotta know what snumpty means. You gotta know what you're trying to describe with the word snumpty. Actually, snumpty sounds like a very fun word to say. Maybe that's the word I make. Maybe that's the word I create. I'll type it out right now. Snumpty. If you want to pass it on, we'll figure out what the interpretation, what the meaning of it is. Mark my words, someday snumpty is going to be the hot new thing and it's going to be like everywhere. So, we have learned all 5 levels of comprehension. Now put them all together, and what do you get? Well, first off, congratulations, now you can understand words. Yay! Celebrations, claps, all the good stuff. Have some cake, have some snacks. But more importantly, you can grasp the moral / philosophical / civil arguments conveyed by a piece of literature, and how to make those arguments yourself. Yay! You know how to read a book, and you know how to write a book. I hope that the biggest lesson learned here when it comes to reading comprehension is that understanding stories is one of the core foundations of the human species. So comprehending both spoken and written words is crucial to the intellectual progress of our societies. The book that I read in my critical analysis class was Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. Like, we read that thing to pieces, and we interpreted it in so many different ways. Like, there is a lot more that goes into it. Not only because it's, like, impressive for what it is, it's like one of the first pieces of horror and sci-fi literature in the world. Like, Mary Shelley could have very well invented sci-fi. Like, I'm pretty sure that was one of the lessons we learned from that. But like, it's also interesting to look at it from a historical perspective, because there was a lot of experimentation with electricity around that time, and that could have been a big factor in what, like, made Frankenstein into what it is. Like, that use of electricity to reanimate the dead and things like that. But there's also the, like, personal stuff going on with Mary Shelley, and how she had just lost a child, and there's a, like, big father-son dynamic between Frankenstein and his monster. And, like, you wouldn't get that information if you didn't try to look for it, you know? So, as exhausting as it could have been to look at Frankenstein for, like, 3 to 5 months, it was still very much worth it, because we got to learn so much about Mary Shelley, about the history of that book and what went into it. We learned to hate her husband. Oh my god, Percy Shelley, he's a piece of work. I'll say that much. But anyway, that is what makes reading comprehension so important. What is the biggest lesson here? Reading comprehension is one of the most important tools for both developing and developed minds. Readers and writers alike should hone their reading abilities to become more aware of the things they read, or even the things they write. Here are the sources for different articles that I used, as well as the images that we went through. And that is that.